All rise!
I will now take your questions. Go ahead.
Mr. Ambassador, is there any truth to the claims made in the Joseph Santaloquito's article today?
Okay. I think, in the words of our president, that article can be described as fake news, folks. And this is me channeling the current president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. That article was terrible. It's a terrible article. That is totally fake. Excuse me. That is a fake article. That is fake news. It is. We should not tolerate such fake news. Do you understand? Excuse me. You're being rude. Sit down. You're being rude. Joseph Santaloquito, Talaquito, whatever his last name is, he's a terrible reporter. He should not be allowed to write for you. He should not be allowed. I wouldn't be surprised if he works for CNN. I would not be surprised if he works for CNN. But this article is a travesty. It's terrible. It's awful. It is an awful thing, folks. This is fake news. Fake news to its finest. And that is the only way I will address or answer this question. It's fake news. We don't have time for it. We need to move on.
E-A-T-L-E-S, Eagles!
What's going on, guys? Just coming at you with another video. Excuse me real quick. As with all of you Eagles fans, pretty much everywhere. And this has been the topic of the day for us Eagles fans. This is the topic of the day. This guy, Joseph Santaloquito, however you pronounce his last name, came out with an article today in which he basically is pointing out concerns, or how I come to find out what he's really doing is pushing his agenda. From what I've been hearing and reading, this guy Joseph Santaloquito, I don't know how to say it. Santaloquito. I think that's how you really pronounce Santaloquito or Santaloquito. I don't know if he's Italian or if he's Hispanic. So if he's Hispanic, it's Santaloquito. If he's Italian, it's Santaloquito. I really can care less. I'm just gonna call him Santaloquito because I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name. You have a horrible last name. Yeah, because you're a horrible person, and I will get into as why in a couple minutes. But I have another podcast I do with my friend. In this podcast, we talk about how the media likes to twist things around, never truly gives you the facts, or just doesn't really give you the understanding, because they have an agenda too. They have to appeal to their certain fan base. They have to appeal to their agenda, or basically who pays for what they're doing on the air. You understand? This podcast I do with my friend is to circumvent that. We're looking at current events. And trying to give the perspective or the facts on the issue. Because that's the way you can truly understand things. That's the way you are informed, and how you can relate that information to other people that, one, may not be as interested, or two, are interested but just don't have that particular knowledge to fully comprehend as to what's going on. But what do we see in the media today? We see things being twisted around, things being politicized, so everything's just polarized to some sort of view, and you really don't get the knowledge you deserve. And how this guy Santaloquito, whatever your name is. So I did a couple of research on this guy, listened to a couple people talk on this guy, and from what I've gathered, based on my sources, and you'll see why I keep saying that in a minute, he's been biased. He has been biased against Carson Wentz ever since Howie Roseman did that trade with Minnesota to get the pick that allowed him to come to Philadelphia, calling the Philadelphia organization as the next Cleveland Browns for doing such a trade. He has not been a fan of Carson Wentz. Not any of the years he's been here. Always nitpicking on the little things. And basically not a fan of the guy. So today he's still pushing for that agenda. Pushing for that. Maybe he's just a Foles guy. Maybe he wants to push the Nick Foles brand out there. But if that's your agenda, man. If that's your agenda, Santaloquito, then why don't you just come out and say so? You're a reporter reporting on the Eagles. You have to come out with the facts. Okay? You have to come out with the facts that, you know what, you may say, there's really not much of a difference. You have to be open to the possibility that you're wrong. I get it. You don't like the guy. I get it. You don't like the guy. But don't be throwing trash out there. And what I mean by trash, your article today. Your article that cannot even be verified. Your article that is questionable. Your article that I can't even trust because half of your article comes from anonymous sources. Anonymous players. Here's some of the things he pointed out. More than half a dozen players who were named to be anonymous. So, more than half a dozen players. There's 53 men in this roster. So, between 6 and 10 players who anonymously quoted said that Carson Wentz is egotistical, fails to take advice, or fails to hold accountability, uncompromising, egotistical, he bullied Mike Groh, Carson Wentz only plays for Carson Wentz. He doesn't play for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I'm like, okay. So you have unnamed sources, and I understand in the media world sometimes to protect their identity or to protect themselves from any repercussion, you want to remain anonymous. But when you tell me that half of your article comes from anonymous sources, I'm gonna question you. I'm going to question you because there's been other reporters. What is this guy's name? Did I write his name down? He works for 94 WIP, and I forget his name. Macau. I forget his. You guys out there that live in Philly know him better than I do. But that guy stated that he has talked to several key players, and they all rebutted this. They all have rebutted this argument that you have made. This analysis that you've made that Carson Wentz is somehow egotistical, selfish, doesn't hold himself accountable. If I remember correctly, after that Carolina game, he held himself accountable. After the Dallas game, he held himself accountable. After practically any loss that he had this year, he held himself accountable. He never was like, well, we didn't create enough plays. We just didn't execute properly. Part of that fault is mine. The usual quotes you get, but he holds himself out there. You know? So I don't understand where you're coming from with this. Where you're coming from. Your argument makes no sense. And I've been debating amongst Eagles fans as to who could it be, just to figure out. A lot of them say it's probably one of the wide receivers. A lot of them are saying because beyond Zach Ertz, who's not a wide receiver, but was the most targeted receiver all season. You haven't heard nothing from Alshon Jeffrey. You haven't heard nothing from Nelson Aguilar. You haven't heard anything from Golden Tate. And correct me if I'm wrong. If there's been a tweet out there from one of these guys, let me know. Because from the list that I got, I don't see any of the receivers, which for me is circumstantial, questionable, but circumstantial that only other players beyond the receiving core have not made any statements in support of Carson Wentz. But to me, that doesn't matter Because when you look at this guy's argument and you start taking it apart piece by piece, you find out that the facts and the stats don't support his argument at all. And I think this guy just is trying to promote the Foles brand. And look, I said this. I've been talking to a bunch of Eagles fans that this fan base needs to stop thinking with its heart and start thinking with its head. Okay? It is one thing not to appreciate what number 9 did for this organization. But it's another thing not to think about the future as well. Philadelphia Eagles fans, I get it. He took us to the Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl. He got us the Super Bowl. But the numbers don't lie. The numbers point out that Carson Wentz and Nick Foles are hand in hand, numbers-wise. The only reason Nick Foles is being so loved by this fan base right now is because of what he did last year. It's unforgettable. I'm never going to forget it. I was glad I was part of it. But that is over. You're talking about injuries. Look at the history of injuries for Nick Foles and look at the history of injuries for Carson Wentz. You can say they're also similar. Why? Because they never they never played full NFL seasons. Another similarity. So when we're here arguing, I'm like, what is this guy talking about? What are you talking about? How does a quarterback who you claim is bullying their offensive coordinator did not surface the entire season? And it's funny that it only surfaces now after the season's over. As you know how the market is playing now for Nick Foles. You know what I mean? Like, you're amplifying this controversy, dividing the fan base over nonsense. And what do I mean by that? Let's look at the numbers. Numbers don't lie, folks. Numbers don't lie. So I'm going to break it down by percentage, targets based on percentages and number of targets per game, per player, between both quarterbacks. Okay? So when you look at the Wentz-Foles divide, Ertz, and we all know, we all said, well, he targeted Ertz so much. It was overwhelming. Ertz. But when from when you look at the game or when you look at video, that's what it seems like it. But when you actually break it down, and I know I made that criticism too, but when you break it down, it's really not the case that you can say Carson Wentz just favored Zach Ertz and left everybody else like in Nim's Island or Gilligan's Island, whatever. Just hear the numbers. Zach Ertz, Carson Wentz targeted Zach Ertz 26.4% of the time. And that means he targeted him 9.6. He targeted him 9.6 times in a game. That was the number of targets, okay? Throughout the season. Nick Foles was at 24.4% to 9.3 targets per game. 9.6 to 9.3. That's Wentz versus Foles. Alshon Jeffrey was 20.3% by Carson Wentz to Nick Foles' 19%. Oh, this, by the way, was from Green Bleed Nation, who was pointed out to me by another YouTuber, Philly 500. Thank you, Philly, for putting that article out there. I just had the other, had the one with attempts per game or targeted attempts, but I didn't have the percentages. So thank you for pointing that out. So what was I? Jeffrey, 20.3 by Wentz and 19% by Nick Foles. Nelson Aguilar was 15% by Wentz to to Foles' 17%. Now, like I said, the targets per game, Jeffrey was 7.74 versus 7. So 7.74 from Wentz to Foles' 7. Tate was 6 to Foles' 5.4. Ertz was, and I already pointed out Ertz, 9.6 to the 9.3. And Aguilar's 5.5 to the 6.6% for Foles. So when you look at and you break it down, the argument makes no sense, guys. The argument makes absolutely no sense. How are you going to say he's egotistical when he's spreading the ball around? Apparently, you did not account for the injuries that you had in the offensive line. You did not account for the fact that Carson Wentz had to get rid of the ball to the quickest open receiver, which at the time happened to be Ertz, because he had no time to set in. The offensive line was letting everybody in through that line. You do not have enough time to settle down, look, scan the field to see that if your number one target is not that open, you go to number 2, you go to number 3, you go to number 4. You know what I mean? You're with 4-string running backs, and so you have to find a way. You have to find a way to make this offense move. And at the beginning of the season, we did not have that. Fact 2, Carson Wentz did not have a full offseason with these players. He was still in rehab. Fact 3, Nick Foles didn't have a full offseason with these players and still struggled at the beginning of the year due to the injuries. So Joseph Talaquito, Panini, whatever your name is, your article is ridiculous. You did not account for the injuries of the players. You did not account for the fact that as the season progressed, players got healthy. The offensive line was looking better. We lost the Dallas game, but look how we got that offensive line moving. Look how we did it against the Rams. Look how they did it against the Texans. They got better in December at the beginning when Wentz was still in there. The argument makes no sense, bro. And it's sad that you're trying to divide this fan base right now. Already divided with the fact that you have the Foles supporters on one hand, and then you have the Wentz supporters on the other. And it shouldn't even be like this. Folks, let's make this abundantly clear. Carson Wentz is going to be your starting quarterback. We can all thank Nick Foles for what he did and never forget about him, but that will not negate the fact that he will be traded. You should not be thinking that $20 million hit should be taken when the numbers show that even without playoff experience, your younger guy is literally hitting them. That the numbers show that there's only a 2% variance to the number of targets to all these players. There shouldn't be no argument. Carson Wentz is the future of the Philadelphia Eagles. Carson Wentz is here to stay. Carson Wentz will not have a full offseason to recover, to spend time with this team, and to solidify this offense once again. So we have to end it right here. It's over. Okay, Joseph Talaquito, you can put whatever articles you want. Show me the facts. Stop calling for unnamed sources. And with that being said, everybody, this is the Eagle Ambassador signing off. Y'all have a good day. Fly, Eagles, fly. Go Birds. Have a good night.